Take two.
Hello, my name is Heidi Richardson.
And my name's Ruby Smith.
And we are here today, the BBC School Report at Chailey School, with best-selling author M.G. Leonard. M.G. Leonard works as a freelance digital producer, and she has written the Beetle book series. I will now hand you over to Ruby, who will start our questions.
Have you always wanted to be an author, or did you have different interests in your earlier life?
I haven't always wanted to be an author because when I was young and at school, I wasn't very good at writing. I really struggled with grammar and punctuation. So I got involved in theatre because I've always loved storytelling. And it was by working in theatre for many years that I developed the confidence to tell stories in perhaps different ways. And I didn't worry so much about the written word until I had the idea.
What difficulties do you face being a writer?
To be honest, I don't feel like there are a lot of difficulties because it's quite a dream job. But I thought if I was a writer, I'd spend a lot of time in a writing shed, writing stories like I'd seen Roald Dahl do on videos and stuff. I didn't realise that actually if you're going to write books, you're going to need to get out there and meet people and talk about them. I do lots of school events, and my book has been translated into nearly 40 languages, so I have to go and do events in lots of different countries, sometimes in translation. And I don't actually get as much time to write as I thought I would get. And that is difficult because obviously if you're not writing books, you're not a writer.
Can that affect you at all?
It certainly makes you quite tired and you realise that you have to be able to write anywhere. The idea of having a writing shed is quite romantic and unrealistic. I write my books on trains, in airport lounges, I write my books in cafes, I write my books in wherever I can.
Yeah.
And I have a laptop, so I carry it with me everywhere. So yeah.
What inspired you to write Beetle Boy?
I was inspired to write Beetle Boy because I've always been scared of creepy crawlies. And then I discovered one day that I didn't really know what a beetle was. I didn't even know that beetles had wings, let alone 2 pairs of wings, and could fly. And when I discovered this, I wondered if my fear was related to my ignorance, that if I knew more, maybe I'd be less scared. And then I asked my friends, and it turned out not many people knew that much about beetles. And I started to learn about them, and the more I learned, the more fascinated I became, and that's when the ideas for the story all started to come together in my head. So the idea really came from fear and questioning why I was scared.
What do you have to do by being a freelance digital producer?
Being a freelance digital producer is a really interesting job because what that means is I can get involved with lots of different projects. So I freelance in the theatre world. So I've worked with Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, and I do lots of work for the National Theatre. And being a digital producer means that you make things for the internet. So that might mean you make a short video and do an interview for the internet, for YouTube, or you might make a podcast, or you might design a website or an interactive. And usually they're always about the theatre productions to help get people interested in those productions. So, and I love theatre. So, you know, it's a cool job to do.
Was it hard to find a publisher?
I was very lucky because my publisher found me before I'd even sent my manuscript to an agent. So I actually had a publishing deal on the table before I was ready for it, before I'd even really thought about it. And I think that's because, you know, I wanted to write books about beetles because nobody's really championed beetles. And actually in the publishing world, that's very exciting because there are no books that are about beetles. And I think my publisher, Barry Cunningham, who's also the man who discovered J.K. Rowling, I think when he found the manuscript, he realised that there weren't any other books like my books. And that excited him. So, yeah, I was very lucky to have a publishing deal before I had an agent.
Does Brighton, where you live, affect or inspire your writing?
Oh, inspire my writing. I love living in Brighton. I love this part of the country. I love the fact that I've got the sea on one side and the South Downs on the other. And it doesn't really matter what I'm in the mood for. You know, I can go and have a walk by the sea, or I can take a tramp through the South Downs. Or if I want to go and see some crazy theatre, there's always something going on in Brighton. or I can just get a train into London if I've got to go for work. So it's a really wonderful combination of things, Brighton. It's got a thriving community of creative people, and it's really tolerant and politically interesting. And ever since I've moved there, I'm never going to leave.
Yeah.
Ever. It's cool.
And is Beetle Boy ever going to be made into films or a series of films?
Yes, absolutely. I have just agreed a contract that should make that happen. The thing about the film industry is that even with the best will in the world, projects can go awry, and there are many stories of great books that were turned into films but never quite made it. So, who knows, fingers crossed that I'm lucky, but I want to write them myself. I want them to be as detailed about insects as the books are, so I want to be a producer. And I've found a group of people who feel as passionately about the project as I do. And so we're hoping to turn it into a series of 10 episodes, about an hour long, across the whole trilogy, to be streamed, which I think would be the best way for people to get it as quickly as possible.
I think that's all the questions we have for you today. Thank you very much for coming in, MG Leonard. This is the BBC School Report at Chailey School.